Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 146 of Mythos Busters. I'm Sean. Joining me tonight, it's still the full crew. It's Ian. Hey Ian. We're going in reverse order this time, so you don't have to wait so long. And I don't have to look at you waiting so long.
I just want to make you anxious. Yep, I'm here.
Excited to talk about Andor this episode?
I am. Everything else is just the prelude to Andor.
It's been teased. The people have had to wait. I still haven't caught up, for how much time I've had. There's also still Scott. Hey, Scott.
It's been out for months, Sean. Months.
I know, but
it's
they're
okay.
Q4 months, which they Thanos snap for me. I mean, we'll also talk about later.
I literally finished Andor today and started a week ago, so I don't. Yeah, it was a finish line. Yeah,
for me, it's always because we all dip into so many different types of media. Have you X? Mm-hmm. For me, have you watched is always the one that I'm most likely to say no to. Of all the things I consume, TV is the one I make the least time for. So it's rough. Yeah. So especially when there's something I really want to watch, even like Andor, it's tough for me to make the time.
That's me too. I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
I know. Hey, Dustin.
Hey guys.
How you?
Now I'm doing well. I'm trying to figure out how I have to look different on the video part of this so that you pity me the way you pitied Ian in the last one for sitting there.
Well, I had way more energy on the first go around, so it took us way longer to get to Ian. We fast tracked it to you this time, so no pity for thee.
I'll remember that.
Little prompt appears in the corner. Justin will remember this.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's been presumably a little bit of time for most of the people. It's been moments for us since 145, but we've got a wonderful episode laid out for you in 146. We're going to do our normal openers. We're going to get caught up on some listener messages via voicemail and email. And then tonight, courtesy of a listener and Discord user, JamJams32, we are going to our main topic, kind of talk about a little bit of a year in review for 2022. And because releases work the way they do, and because the time that's passed since 2020 works the way it does, we're also going to pull in the end of 2021 in our year in review and kind of include all the edge of the earth things as well. And then, of course, we'll round it out with a little bit of technical time. But before we get to that, let's just confirm. There was a reminder I was supposed to have here, wasn't there? Meme contest. So probably by the time you're listening to this, the window for entries has closed. If this is released past January 20th, which it likely will be. So sorry if you missed it. However, pay attention to our social medias because we are going to have, of course, a period where people can go in and see all the entries and memes, vote on their favorites, and then, of course, we're going to announce a meme stream as we do, where we go through and review and award our specific favorites. So stay tuned for that. All right. Well, guys, let's not beat around the bush this time. We haven't played any Arkham since the last time we talked, so let's hop right into the voicemails.
That's what you think.
Scott's like furiously TTSing in the back.
Yeah, I played a solo dubs game during the break.
Just in the space of the intro of this episode.
Yeah,
it's just Scott's version of what I did a few episodes ago when you guys were going to talk about Snap, and I didn't want to be left out, so I played it in the background so I could contribute. He's just doing the same thing, but at Scott level.
Yeah. And I'm glad we drug you down that hole, and now you're like deeper down it than I am. So it all worked out. As a reminder to everyone, you can, and we invite you to call in to our Mythos Busters hotline. That's 203-493-6984, and leave us a message. You can leave us a message about just about anything. We invite commentary on the things we say, on the things we don't say. If we've missed something, that's the thing we like to hear about. In particular, we would like you to give us your house rules. When you play Arkham, by yourself or with other people, bend the game at all, or if you add rules, anything you do to modify the game to make it your own. Within our next couple episodes, we're going to be finally going over all of those house rules we've received, and we'd love to have yours too. So call those into the hotline. If you would prefer not to submit those via audio, I know more than a few people have mentioned that phone phobia is a thing they have, and the idea of leaving a live message is just not their cup of tea. That's cool. We're here for you. Send those in via text to our Gmail. That's mythosbusterspod@gmail.com. And we'll be going over those probably in the next few episodes. So our first message tonight is from Jimmy Jedi. Just as a quick disclaimer, he says spoiler alert in the beginning of the voicemail. I've listened. It's a very, very high level, non-story spoiler, mechanical question for the Scarlet Keys. So if that's something you don't want to listen to, if you don't want anything spoiled, yeah, go ahead and skip ahead a few minutes. But otherwise, it's really just talking about the way a specific mechanic works that has already been previewed. So.
Hello there, this is Jadine Jedi calling again. This is a Scarlet Keys question, so spoilers for anybody who doesn't want to listen in or talk about that. I'm hoping that we could have a rules discussion around expose as a mechanic and how it works with the various different effects and cards that can do multiple things, because I feel like I'm still confused about which ones. The rule says that it's supposed to be just one expose, but there are certain effects that seem like they maybe should give you an additional. For example, Rex Murphy, his card being a response after you investigate makes me wonder if maybe that's supposed to be additional on top of the one expose that you get. Maybe you get a clue, maybe you get another expose. There's breaking and entering, where you have an investigate, but you also have a potential evade. Just hoping y'all could talk about that a little bit. Thanks.
So it's an interesting question. Let me real quick, as additional color here, I have the Scarlet Keys campaign guide. Let me just read a couple of bullet points as it pertains to concealed mini cards and how we expose them. Okay, concealed mini cards are not enemies, which I feel like is going to be important as we talk about this. So let's remember that piece. They're not enemies, cannot be engaged like enemies. However, any investigator at the same location as the concealed mini cards may attempt to expose it by successfully attacking or evading it as if it were an engaged enemy. As if. Or by successfully investigating its location. The difficulty to successfully attack or evade a concealed mini card is equal to the shroud value of its location. Bullet point below. An investigator may also use a card effect that automatically evades an enemy, deals damage to an enemy, or discovers a clue at a location in order to expose a concealed mini card. If they choose to expose a concealed mini card, that effect replaces the standard effect. And then, let's see here. Only one concealed mini card may be exposed per effect unless explicitly stated. So, pretty easy to say, like, if you've got like a deduction is not going to expose 2 clues, because that's one instance where you're getting an additional clue, or you would get an additional clue, but it's not a separate instance of discovering a clue, right?
Mm-hmm. I think one thing to add on that too is because it's replacing the effect, like something like deduction or Rex. No, sorry, just deduction. It supplements the clue finding, so you're just replacing that entire clue finding with exposing an enemy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I think like breaking and entering, or maybe cheap shot would be another example where you've got 2 separate effects that happen off of the same test or the same ability, but one's an investigate with a clue and then you evade an enemy, or one is you're damaging an enemy with a fight and then also evading it. So I feel like a lot of these like weird combo effects or compounding triggers that are technically separate are going to garner a lot of rules questions. So I know we don't necessarily have answers on tonight's show, but it's interesting to kind of think about teching against this campaign. We might come to a place of like these cards end up being highly efficient for exposing if the rules, the rulings go a certain way.
Yeah, I'm not sure about breaking and entering. Because you investigate. And if so it says investigate, add your agility value to your skill value for this investigation. If you succeed by 2 or more, you may automatically evade an enemy at this location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. Because I think there's an investigation there, and then there's also you may automatically evade an enemy at this location.
Mm-hmm. So the investigation, presuming you succeed and trigger both, right? Like you get a clue, which means you could replace that clue with exposing a mini card.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then you also evade an enemy, which seems to be a separate trigger on its face, right?
I think so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it's eventually going to fall down, but I like the idea that there are like kind of specific compounding cards that are really good in this campaign specifically. I like tech. I don't know.
Yeah, this one is that's a fickle one. I think that's a email FFG about that stuff.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the way I played it in the campaign is that it's like basically a card can expose have one expose essentially, but I don't know if that was the intention. I just kind of went with the harder interpretation, as goes the Grim rule, but I don't know what the actual intention is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, though I think I maybe illustrated a good maybe, I don't know, this is conjecture, a good difference. Breaking and entering seems like a stronger case than cheap shot, because I think cheap shot says evade that enemy, which that, if that's the wording, if I'm remembering it correctly, that would make that one in particular fall apart.
So I think one thing, so the rules say only one concealed mini card may be exposed per effect unless explicitly stated. In example, an effect that deals 3 damage to each enemy at a location does not expose all concealed mini cards at that location, only one. But since there's a clue finding and an evasion on breaking and entering, I feel like those are 2 different effects that are going on.
And Sean, I'm sorry, can you read the part in the rules again about it replacing it?
Yeah. I mean, it is basically it. If an investigator chooses to expose a concealed mini card, that effect replaces the standard effects of the action or ability that exposed it. Okay, so then the example, which I didn't read, but I don't know if this is going to add any additional clarity, i.e., if an enemy's mini card is exposed by evasion or damage, the matching enemy is not evaded, nor does it take damage. If a mini card is exposed by discovering clues or investigating, no clues are discovered. So, no, I don't think that adds anything.
Yeah, I got hung up on how much of it would replace, but it's just saying that the standard piece.
Yeah.
If an investigator chooses to expose a concealed minicard, that effect replaces the standard effects of the action or ability that exposed it. So the action is playing breaking and entering. So oh man.
Yeah, see,
I know, right?
We're really digging in here because this is where, like, sometimes the ruling in Arkham Horror is, like, so technical. Because now I'm looking up what is defined as an effect in the rules reference. Because this is specifically keying off an effect, and this is where we're really... So it's basically a card effect is any effect that arises from the resolution of ability text printed on or gained by a card, which doesn't provide us that much help. But then later on it talks about aspects of an effect. So now it's digging down even further into effects, that there's different aspects of an effect. For example, if an effect reads gain 3 resources and draw 3 cards, resolve both aspects of that effect. So it's considering gain 3 resources and draw 3 cards to be one effect, but the gaining resources and drawing 3 cards are different aspects of the same effect.
But also that says and. Yeah. Whereas breaking and entering is if you succeed by 2 or more on this test,
it's like
you
a
may
whole
automatically
separate...
evade.
Boy, I sure would hate to be the person whose job it is to parse this shit out.
Wow.
I can't wait till FFG exposes what the ruling should be.
Everyone please ask this question and make sure to write care of Nick on there.
Yes. At Nick specifically.
Looks like this card is breaking the rules and entering the FAQ.
Well, in the meantime, I'm gonna play it that way because it's fun and I like tech. But I guess we'll probably follow up on a later episode. Scott, this would be a perfect rules PSA when this ruling finally hits.
Oh God, yeah, would it ever be? I'm not sure. This is the first time I've been like really stumped on a rules question. Whereas like reading multiple like FAQ and like rules pieces and cards and trying to parse what's an action and an effect and yeah.
It would make sense to me if they really, really kind of want to throttle how quickly you can expose things, that they rule like only one concealed card is like available to be exposed at a time within an action, like that sort of thing. But then there are like fast abilities that expose them too. So then that whole argument gets thrown out the window.
I think breaking and entering only reveals one. I think that's my pull on it.
Okay.
Because an investigator chooses to expose a concealed minicard, that effect replaces the standard effects of the action or ability that exposed it. And only one concealed minicard may be exposed per effect. Unless explicitly stated.
Well, but wasn't part of the question if the second part of these things just fires off in general, or if it just full on fizzles it? Or did I hear that wrong?
That is an interesting layer to it. Like, okay, say you have an actual enemy at that location. Can you expose a card for the investigation and then still evade the enemy as part of the other thing? Or does the expose like eat the entire ability?
And that's why I was wondering about the replace, because that's how I was hearing it. Is there is the piece about it seems like the rules, however worded, are trying to say, no, you just get to do one, unless there's some other thing going on. But if you have breaking and entering where it's, okay, you expose, but you get to do something else. Or Rex, you've exposed and you get to do something, not to expose something else, but can you still do the second thing?
Okay, I reverse my thought now, because I think with breaking it, and the reason is the question is like, so if you investigate successfully and you expose instead of getting a clue, if you succeed by 2 or more, you may automatically evade an enemy at this location. I would think that would still fire. And because I think that should still fire, then I think that is a separate effect or ability within that card, separate from the investigate.
Sure.
Wow, weird.
All right, well,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Play it the way you want.
Godspeed, Nick. Can't wait to see what you come up with.
Yeah.
I can't wait until Nick hears this episode because he dropped off tonight. We are going to get an all caps message from him. I guarantee it.
All
Can't wait.
caps.
All right,
You guys started a write-in campaign to send a mail?
Yeah.
I am
What's
buried
FFG's
in
like
requests
physical
right
mailing
now.
address? Like send in letter mail.
Yes, just like straight up snail mail. Send a pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate the question. I wish we had an answer, but it is a very interesting and timely and relevant question, and I hope we can follow up with an answer on a later episode. Tonight's second voicemail comes from one Reaper Man who takes some issue with, I think, a thing I said and have said several times.
Hi, Mythos Busters. This is Reaverman on Discord, and the underrated card that I'm going to defend today is Henry Wan. I actually really can't think of any instance where anyone's defended Henry Wan, so I fully accept getting panned for this. But I think, as written, he is a completely fine and playable card. I'm not going to say that he's amazing, but I do not think he is the binder fodder trash that the community thinks he is. The example that I'm going to cite, because I have crazy friends who make me think completely differently about some of the cards and how I rate their power, there was a friend of mine who I played the Blob with. I was Luke, and my goal was to seal away the worst parts of the bag. First across the table was Preston, who ran big money, and his only real curse support was Justify the Means. Just using the Blob as an example, the Blob has 2 skulls, 1 cultist, 1 tablet, 1 elder thing, and 1 autofail. That's 6 fail tokens for Henry Wan, and I sealed 3 of them. That leaves a 14-token bag, plus whatever curses are miscellaneously in the bag at any point. It's a bit anecdotal, but this man sat across the table from me and would just go, I'll spend an action and trigger Henry Wan, and would draw 8 or 9 tokens. I think the record was 13. It was the highest he went without busting. It didn't always work, but it definitely worked with minimal sealing support and minimal curse support. A. B, I think Henry Wan's just perfectly fine with just any amount of blessed curse support because you're just changing the bag immediately into your favor. And then C, honestly, I think this is the true power of Henry Wan is he lets you draw cards in Rogue. That's something that you can't really do nearly as easily, that if you oh yeah, I'll spend an action instead of just drawing a card, I will gamble to draw 2, 3, 4, or in the case of my insane friend, 9. And this guy meant he was drawing through his deck that much faster to find the keys that he needed as Preston to unlock, the whatever problem he was dealing with at the end. I think it's a cute pick. I think in the right deck it can exploit it, but again, as written with minimal, seal or blessed curse support, I think he's perfectly playable and better than the underrated binder fodder that he is seen to be. That's just my 2 cents. Thanks. Bye.
All right, I'm gonna keep it 100% with you guys. I forgot in my head that Henry Wan gives you the option to draw cards. I had filed it away in my head that he only gives you resources for his ability.
I think most people,
and that automatically makes him better.
So, I think I appreciate the argument. I think the examples of drawing 9 cards or 13 resources and stuff are outliers.
Super edge case, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and humans tend to remember outliers. Do I think that with Bless and Curse support and like the scenario he's describing is one where he's taking away half of the risk from the bag and then adding non-risky tokens, which I think in that case, absolutely, Henry Wan is probably better than a lot of people give him credit for being. I don't think that Henry Wan is an all-star because occasionally you can draw 9 cards or something. Because I think that is absolutely an outlier.
Yeah. And to be fair to Chad's argument, he opened with, I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's binder fodder.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I love splashy effects, right? I love like I will put cards in my deck that I know sometimes will fail. I have a hard time doing that with economy. Like economy is like the basis upon which the rest of my deck works, and I have a harder time in particular taking like risky ass cards for that purpose than it would be to like say a card that like you have a similar effect to this, but it does X amount of damage or clues, or, you know, obviously it's not analogous, but economy in particular, I need it to be fast. I need it to be reliable. I need it to do the thing that I want it to do because the rest of what I'm doing hinges on me having the resources or the cards I need. So I think that's my biggest thing with Henry is that if I've got him, he's taking up my ally slot, and I'm like presumably counting on him with an action to do some economy for me. Sure, sometimes he'll get me 3-4 resources. Like you said, Scott, I'm not going to count on him getting me 9. You have to do some jankery and have some sincere luck to do that. But if I'm counting on him to get me like 3 or 4 cards or resources or some combination of the two, and the first token I pull is a symbol, which is going to happen sometimes, suddenly that might tank that game. And that's my thing. Although I respect the craft of defending terrible cards, Chad. I appreciate the call.
I have to jump in with the theme because I had never placed this before, but I see that his title is aspiring actor. and so now as I'm thinking about this and listening, so you have added Henry to your team. You have decided that you are going to back Henry. You want him on your squad. And so to me, this is now the effect of he's either going to hit it big or maybe like a minor hit, something fizzles. And it's more like the success. Because I'd always thought of it as more like he's the gambler. But do you have someone who, to your point, Sean, about economy is, wow, he hit it big. He's helping me out and I'm drawing through or getting resources. And that's great. Versus, wow, that was a flop. Doesn't help at all from the how it actually works gameplay wise, but I have a new appreciation for the theme.
Well, I appreciate the murder there because I have struggled to figure out what the heck is happening with the theme on Henry Wan for a while. That makes more sense to me now. I too appreciate the practice of defending bad cards because I too love that. I mean, I'm the same guy who has defended Joey the Rat a lot on this podcast. So
Joey the Rat's okay though.
But I just can't get there with Henry Wan. I think what you said really hits the nail on the head, Sean, about the economy and taking up the ally slot. Like, I really need something in my ally slot that's really doing a lot of work. I do like the card draw. I'm still not doing phrasing. I'm never doing phrasing. I too forgot about the card draw, but I feel like even then, I'm probably running like Lucky Cigarette Case or Pickpocket or something in Rogue instead. I don't know. If anyone would find a way to love Henry Wan, I feel like I would do that because it's Rogue and it's a weird bad card, but I still can't get there yet. And I think there probably are ways to do it. Like the Bless Curse is probably your best bet, but. I don't know. I feel
or if
like
you're
at that
failing
point,
hard in Edge and you're full of Frost.
Full of Frost is the place to be. It's just like I'm sure you can do weird combos where you really get a lot of like success out of Henry Wan, but I feel like you're probably doing that as just like a fun flex more so than to actually play Arkham Horror the card game. Like I don't know.
So I think his best argument is that in Rogue, card draw is sometimes difficult. You have Lucky Cigarette Case, and then you have the basic action to draw a card.
That's true.
And I think if you are playing a Bless/Curse, probably Curse, deck, or if you're playing a cross from one of those decks, and there's not that many symbol tokens in the bag, like a 6-ish, it seems about normal. An action to draw 3 cards is not that bad. Like, that's actually decent. Like, if this is in Winnie, let's say, and you just want to, like, burn through your deck as fast as possible, loop, an action to draw 3 cards, and that's not that big of a gamble with that many extra blesses or curses in the bag. So I can see the argument for that.
Ooh, and like you throw in Favor of the Moon, Favor of the Sun, that's guaranteeing you to draw 1 because those don't require that you're doing a skill test, right? Those can be anytime you draw a token.
Yep.
Okay.
I think
what cards could we use to make Juan playable?
Well, you want Faustian Bargain because you need the resources to pay for these cards you're drawing. That's going to add you 2 curses.
Yeah, but then what are you doing with Juan if you've got Faustian Bargain in your deck?
What's the card that you can put as many blessed tokens in the bag as you want, but at the end of the turn they turn to curses or something? Isn't that a rogue card? Or is that a Mystic?
It's Mystic. It's It was a turn Tides of Fate.
Something like
Tika got it. Yep, Tides of Fate.
Like something like that. Then who would? Yeah. Oh no, it's replace all the curse tokens with. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Because Safina could play Olive, and like you could double down and like bounce 1 symbol token out if you draw them with Olive.
Well, and then also like Twist of Fate, right? That one adds 6. No, not Twist of Fate. What's the
Tempt Fate?
3 plus Tempt Fate? Like I mean that gets you. That's a fast cantrip, right? Gets you that card, replaces itself, and puts 6 tokens in the bag that are going to allow... Yeah. Rite of Equilibrium. That's the one I'm thinking of.
10 curse, 10 bless, just completely fill up the bag.
Yep.
Yeah, max.
All right, so we're spending like 8 XP to make Henry Wan playable at this point.
But
can we just put him in a Lola deck and she mentors him?
Yeah.
Again, I'm only solving the problem of thieves.
Well, and Rite of Equilibrium got tabooed to be -2 experience. So it's only level 3.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that got a buff. Much needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I think that when Henry Wan came out,
Salty Elderberry says you could put Gayish out and then like deliberately violate it.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty great.
There you go. Yep. By drawing a card.
With Henry Wan.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I think when Henry Wan came out, I think he was pretty close to well, he was where everyone, I think, put him, which was in the back of the binder. I think Reaverman's onto something. I think he's not as bad as he was. And I think he can be... he could be a piece of a combo. Or something to allow you to get the pieces of your combo. Like, Ian, what about your Jenny deck? The 25 ones, like, because that deck basically you want to draw your entire deck as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Set up and then just never do anything again.
Yeah.
And all you do is use him to draw, and then once you get the allies you want, you just replace them, and he can just circulate in your deck. Yeah. Anyways, I think there's places for him.
Well, again, I appreciate the craft of defending a bad card, but I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Okay. I don't think he's bad anymore. How about that?
Yeah. That works.
We'll draw another token and we'll see if we get to move on.
Yeah, you convinced me, Reaverman. You convinced me.
You won, Scott. Okay, all right. That's not a bad win.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? I will build a Henry Wan deck.
Let's do it. Excited.
Not right now, but yeah.
Right.
Can I name it?
Yes. That can be your contribution. It's the most important contribution.
So then we'll move on to the last message of the night. This one comes via email from Phileon. So I will be reading. This is in regard to, I want to say, episode 143, where we talked about Kaimani. Whenever we talked about Kaimani, Ian.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Hey, Busters, specifically Sean and Ian. I thought you covered a lot of good ground with your investigator deep dive on Kaimani, but I have to call out one thing. You both dismissed stealth as a good option for them. And you're right about it being a bad tool for doing a simple evade on enemies, particularly at level 0. It doesn't exhaust them. A teammate still has to deal with it. But let me tell you about stealth level 3. You can re-engage an enemy you've evaded the normal way, then use stealth and trigger Kaimani's reaction ability as a part of that test, because you're still attempting an evasion. This test is -2 difficulty, which also translates to -2 target score to discard the enemy, so you get an extra boost there. Sure, you can't exhaust it, but what does that matter when it's already exhausted and you're just discarding it anyway? As a bonus, if you're using Delilah in your play, which Delilah and Stealth is a known combo, it is known. As a bonus, if you're using Delilah in your play, her ability costs 2 resources less against that enemy while you're doing the test, meaning you can usually damage that enemy for 1 or 2 while you're evading it, reducing how much you need to succeed by. Is the enemy elite? You may not be able to discard it, but this is still packing damage in there for much less than you would have normally paid. Yes, that's pricey in XP, but use that secret starting 5 XP. And then in the thick of it, you've got 8. And that's 2 stealth and some left over. I felt I had to cover this glaring oversight. Thanks for reading. Have a great day, Phileon. I have nightmares sometimes about us discovering that 5 XP, Ian.
Same. Still can't believe that.
We couldn't hide our shame at all. We just did it right in front of people.
I was indignant at myself.
That's not a bad pull. I completely overlooked the fact that you could do it on Kaimani's second test as opposed to the first one. Like in my head, you were using the ability on stealth to do the first. But if you're using Kaimani's second ability, then yeah, that's a good call. I also
especially with the upgraded version and that it's a free trigger at that point. Like that's pretty great at that point.
And how does Kaimani read?
When you attempt to evade an exhausted non-elite enemy.
Okay, so it can be through another effect. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Props. That was definitely a spot we missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
How dare you? How dare you?
That's I also really like stealth to get enemies in range of leveled up dumb luck. Just that's the only other place I've ever like successfully used stealth. It's pretty fun. All right, wonderful. Well, thanks, Fi, for writing in. Appreciate your input. If anyone ever has a similar thing to say, if we missed something, if you'd like to take issue with the thing we've said, please call in, write in. Mythos Busters hotline is 203-493-6984. That's 203-493-MYTH. And our email is always open to you. That's mythosbusterspod@gmail.com.
And if you go to our Facebook page and click on the call button, it just calls it. If you're on your phone.
That's right.
So
it's true.
Super easy.
Mm-hmm. All right, wonderful. Well, I think that leads us into our main Tupac for the night. Justin, do you wanna guide us through this bad boy?
I sure can. So, year in recap 2022, in parentheses, and a little bit of 2021. So we have more to talk about, and we want to talk about Edge of the Earth as well. End parentheses.
Yeah.
Again, this is from Discord user JamJams32. Thank you for sending the suggestion and some of the prompts. Guys, I'm just gonna off and on read through some of these, and we'll freeform it from there. First one we're going to go through here is, so in our end of 2021 through 2022 year, we're talking about what was the best / your favorite card released from each faction. Sean, I'm going to call on you first, and instead of having to run through all of them, I'm calling on you first and going Mystic.
Ooh, it's tough. So I'm just going to run through a few of the ones that I like. So I was in a place the past year of like really digging into like Gloria. Foresight is up there for me. I don't know that I've played it anywhere outside of Gloria. I suppose if you're using scrying anywhere else, it can be really good. But that's zero cost event, 1 XP. Fast when an investigator at your location would draw a card from their deck or from the encounter deck. Name a card. If the drawn card is the named card, that investigator may either cancel that card's effects and discard it, or immediately play that card at -2 cost. Oh yeah, Tika points out, good in Norman. Guys, I have to disgracefully admit that I haven't played Norman since Edge came out. Only a lot before Edge. I still have to try my other runner-up, Astronomical Atlas. I have seen so many bonkers decks doing cool things with that card. Still haven't tried it yet. But, man, there's so many good cards. And then, like, okay, so maybe as we go through class stuff, are we including multi-class cards? Because that blows the field wide open, doesn't it?
Let's rule yes.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm just surprised you haven't said Power Word yet.
Well, that was just foreplay, okay? All right.
Okay.
And I also please don't taboo Power Word. Please. It's Power Word. I like Power Word. It's a fantastic
Every time
card.
we mention
it's really fun. Please don't taboo it. Thank you. Yeah. Like, okay, so let me actually say things about Power Word. I really, really like the design. It's the kind of thing that I wished for since the early days of the game, like the idea of just like mind dominating an enemy. We got Mind Wipe early on, and then we got an upgraded version that was kind of going for a similar theme. Never really did it for me in that way, but the idea of like turning an enemy into your thrall, and then the more XP you pour into it, the more that thrall is capable of doing. Like, well, Dunwich Iron Man that we did this most recent Arkham Knights, where I went hard on Power Word in Parallel Agnes. It's possibly the best time I've had playing Dunwich. So yes, Power Word. It's Power Word.
More like Mind Shite, am I right?
You nailed it. Although it does have more uses nowadays than it did when it first came out.
Yes. Yeah.
Before anyone yells at me.
All right. Ian, your turn for best cards, favorite cards. And let's have you do Guardian. I'm joking. Do Rogue. The look of panic on your face.
Breath.
The look. I had to do it too. I'm sorry, but
shotgun.
Tell us about the Rogues.
Yeah, shotgun. It's tough for similar reasons. We just got so many cards, and I love a lot of the Rogue cards we got, which is the good news. So I have a couple picks. One is kind of my filet mignon pick, the really like powerful top tier card, and the other one is more like just the bread and butter. So for my filet mignon pick, it is the Red Clock. Broken but reliable. I love the Red Clock. It's part of probably my favorite deck that I built in 2022. I think I built it in 2022, the Underworld Jenny. But Red Clock, it's super expensive in terms of XP. It's exceptional. Just builds up charges with each turn. You can take them as resources, but with each kind of tick of the clock, you get effects like getting plus skill value for your next skill test, being able to move, taking additional actions. It's a card that you can include in just random decks because all of those abilities are useful, and it's kind of a fun mini game. I like mini game cards where you have to kind of play a little game within the game, and this is one where you kind of figure out when you're gonna make use of these different actions and when you're gonna take the charges. But you can also build around it and just make some bonkers decks around Red Clock. So it's hard for me not to pick that one. Love Red Clock. And my bread and butter pick is Breaking and Entering 2, which came out in Scarlet Keys. I like the just base version of Breaking and Entering as well, but it's just such a simple effect. But the fact that you combine an investigation with an evasion, it's like two things that rogues want to do, at least a lot of the rogue decks that I play. But then in the upgraded version, if you succeed by 3 or more, you can just keep returning it to hand, which with a rogue, you're adding your agility to the skill. You have a pretty good chance of hitting that fairly often. There's just a lot of cases in the game where Breaking and Entering, being able to investigate, it doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. You get the clue, and then you can also evade an enemy there. It's just super great compression.
Very nice. Scott, your turn. You want to do Survivor?
Yeah, Grizzled. I think a well thought out Grizzled. It's a very simple card. A very Ian, as you say, bread and butter. But man, does that card ever butter bread? If you, if you pick the right traits and stuff, that skill card is going to be in 10 plus tests per game, and it's absolutely fantastic. It takes a while to really get a handle on it, but once you do, I think it's fantastic. If you haven't used it yet, you gotta.
Especially if you're Silas.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're anyone. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah, and Teacup points out, like, yeah, that's another like meta card, and like love being able to use your knowledge and kind of like really dial in and just give it to a scenario.
Well, when I was using it in that Wendy deck in TFA, like I went through all the encounter cards on Arkham DB, of course, and like filtered by traits, and I just figure out which ones, like where am I going to have difficulty? Which one of these tests am I not sure about? Right? Like, oh, there's a combat test on this thing. Well, I guess I'm putting that trait in, right? And like all that knowledge, I had it all written out. So when I upgraded my Grizzled, like, and it's like, oh, when you draw an encounter card with, that trait on it, pull Grizzled back out of your discard pile, stuff like that. It's unbelievably good.
So Scott, as a grizzled veteran, what traits would you advise people look at?
Ooh, okay. So Hex, Terror, Humanoid are the three that pop to mind.
How about Hazard? Is Hazard worth looking at?
Hazard is also, depending on the campaign, depending on the hazard. Monster is another good one. Curse.
Yeah,
Hex, Terror, Curse.
Really prevalent.
Hex, Terror, Curse, Hazard, Humanoid, Monster are probably the top 6, I think. And just depending on who you are, who you're playing, and what you're going to have difficulty with, stuff like that. Right, and Grizzle doesn't return until after the treachery is finished resolving, but if you have 2 in your hand, you just cycle them. Once you have both in your hand, you're just churning out wild icons for tests.
I dig it.
Fantastico. Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Anybody want to talk about Guardian?
Runic Axe. Or Carson.
Or just Carson. I mean,
or Runic Axe in Carson. How about that?
God, I'm trying to think what else. I do quite like Daniela.
Ian, I was surprised that Thieves Kit didn't make your rogue list.
Yeah, that's another great one. There's honestly so many to pick from. Yeah. But yeah, Thieves Kit just does so much work for sure.
Yeah.
How about Cyclopean Hammer? You gonna count that one? That was one of my runner-ups for Mystic that I didn't count.
When did that come out?
That was Edge.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, okay, yeah. If we're counting that, Cyclopean Hammer. But Cyclopean Hammer is it's better now with the taboo. It's fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just love Runic Axe as a really flexible weapon for someone who's not necessarily a mainstay killer. I think is an awesome option.
Just a straight up God of War reference that I can 100% get behind.
Another Guardian card that I really like is that came out in Scarlet Keys is Ever Vigilant 4.
Yep.
I kind of want every Guardian in a 4-player game needs to be ready Ever Vigilant 4 just because it's such a
stick to the plan.
Yeah, it's for those who are not familiar or don't remember, it's 1 at a time. All the investigators at your location as a group can play up to 4 assets in total from their hands, reducing the resource cost of each by 1.
Oof. For your action, everyone gets to do that.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify though, that is 4 assets total, not 4 per person.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't spell out 16 assets. Got it. Okay.
That would be stupid.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Scott,
I mean,
you were saying something?
I was just wondering if you have any picks for Seeker. Because I have a pick for Seeker. I have a pick for everyone.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Sorry, Sean, we cut you off.
Oh, no, it's fine. I also have been putting Gang up in a surprising amount of decks. It doesn't go in every deck because you need class access to make it work. But if you can get access to 2 off classes, suddenly that becomes supercharged, I've got a plan, and you also don't have to have clues. So it's a solid punch. For 1 XP.
Quick aside related to Gang Up, I did not realize how often FFG uses the same titles of cards across their games.
Oh, yeah.
I knew art within the same, worlds, but there are now so many cards in the Arkham world that I recognize from Star Wars Destiny. So Gang Up being one of them, and just exactly the same. And I never would have thought, is that a thing to cross properties?
Justin,
anyway,
pretty sure it's also a card in Marvel.
Yep. Justin, are you aware of the flavor text on A Test of Will in Arkham referencing the flavor text on A Test of Will in Lord of the Rings?
No, and I'm lost already.
All right, well, I'll show you that later. Yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. The titles
It's
on
a
cards
really,
just-
really cool meta reference. That's one of my favorites.
Okay. Nice. Scott, to your question about Seeker cards. Of the last 2 cycles, if I had to pick a Seeker card, and it's a popular one, got tabooed, Genet. Just...
yeah.
I remember when we played mostly Iron Man, that Sean, and just being like, is she really do this? Is this... It just does everything I want.
My lord, is it legal?
It adds just enough almost area control to the play. She's just so good. So yeah, I also like research notes in the current cycle. I mean, I think that's an easy pick for what it does, but head and shoulders above any of the other Seeker cards. Just Genet is just so good for me.
Mine is
What was your
forced
pick, Scott?
learning. Forced learning.
Sure.
Okay.
Another kind of a bread and butter card, kind of. If you're trying to build a certain combo of cards, it just kind of gets you through a bit quicker. And I also love the decision points it gives you. Yeah.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, that is the one that increases deck size.
Deck size to 45, and then when you draw your card during the upkeep phase, you draw 2, keep 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about a lot of good cards. This must be a great game.
Oh, there it
It
is.
sure
Ian,
is a
yep.
great game. Okay, Justin.
Yep, so
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by the test of wills popping up in chat. I'll have to look at that later. Next thing we're talking about, we're moving on from favorite cards. Now we're going to talk about favorite scenario from the 2021 into 2022. So, let's get it's either going to be real easy or real painful. Ian, what was your favorite?
I think technically Fortune and Folly doesn't officially release till 2023, so that'll save me from having to make that decision. I would probably pick it. This is a tough one. I think from Edge of the Earth, the scenario that for some reason, all those that didn't click with some people, I really like the mountain scenario, climbing the mountain. I find that one
That's
fun.
my pick too, Ian.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Scarlet Keys, I'm still trying to decide because I need to play through it more. There's quite a few. So I'm not sure. It feels weird to pick the mountain one as my favorite scenario of the year, but that's the only one that really pops out in my brain.
I mean, it is solid for what it's trying to do. What's the shame in that?
It feels very much like trudging up a cruel mountain.
Yeah.
And like the fact that you have to like keep picking up your shit, like that's the best part, is like it keeps blowing stuff out of your hands and you have to keep going back for it. Like, it's such a cool like objective within a scenario.
There's particular like
almost...
scenario moments in Scarlet Keys that pop out to me, but I kind of can't talk about them without spoiling, so I'll just keep those there for now.
It's almost a little unfair because like I've only played through Scarlet Keys one full time, and in that full time we missed several scenarios because that's just how Scarlet Keys works. So Edge definitely gets an edge here.
Sean, to talk about how it's edged out Scarlet Keys more.
Well, for me, At the Mountains of Madness is my favorite Lovecraft. So City of the Elder Things was just a joy for me to actually like be able to explore that particular setting. I think it's really cool that, you know, depending on how you approach the city from a story perspective, the map looks different. And then, you know, even among the same map configurations, the locations are randomized. There's just so much you got to do. Like, I do have to say that it gets one little like minus tick in my column because sometimes RNG can absolutely screw you. and like some of those like bridge locations that are supposed to quickly get you across a map that's otherwise hard to traverse. Sometimes they just end up like right next to each other and it's useless. That does happen, but I think that's a really, really cool scenario for what it's doing. And it tickled my Lovecraft fan bone in a way that none other I regret my phrasing. Don't give me that face.
I'm writing it down for episode title.
Oh no.
Tickled my Lovecraft fan bone.
Why do I say words sometimes? Anyway, I really like that scenario.
Okay. Scott, how about you?
If we're choosing campaign scenarios, then it's got to be Forbidden Peaks as well. Ian, I know you're kind of like, it's so simple, but honestly, that's the thing. It's simple. It does exactly what it does. You're climbing a mountain, cut and dry. Like, I don't have... It's kind of like Andor, where I'm just like, I can't really... There's nothing really bad to say about it. Like, it just... You know what I mean? It's nothing... It's not overreaching, and it's not trying to be something crazy. It's just trying to be what it is. And it was just done so well. That's what gave me the feel. If we're talking about standalones, then of course, the Casino is... It came out in 2022 for me, so... Yeah.
That's when it came out in his heart.
True. Yeah.
Mine is very quick because Sean, I agree with you. City of Elder Things was awesome. I just had so much fun playing it, and then as much of a sucker for theme as I am, boy, did that check all the boxes and then create boxes I didn't even know existed.
Well, and then as a bonus, you were playing like Mr. Mobility, the Green Goblin Jack. So the big map and the traversal was just a bonus for you.
Yeah, that was fun. Even though we didn't quite get the resolution we wanted with it, the fact that we were even as close as we were was still just... We were
within like one turn of us like getting, quote unquote, a full clear on it.
Yeah. So I know that's specific to that playthrough, but still, that is burned in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So we talked about cards. We talked about scenario. Let's talk about investigators, specifically older investigators. So they've now got 2 full cycles of additional player cards. So of the old investigators, and let's for ease say pre-Edge investigators, who is the most improved investigator?
So
Scott,
tough.
let's start with you.
I'm going back to the core set. Roland Banks. Because Scarlet Keys exists. You shoot an enemy, you get someone out of shadows. Like, just his ability, and also when you're looking at it from a solo perspective, the amount of ways he can just discover a clue. Like, you've got scene of the crime, it's the Guardian and Seeker access. So you got scene of a crime, working a hunch, his own ability. Like, it just, yeah. I think if you're going into TSK solo, Roland is possibly a very strong pick. And so if we're looking at it from that perspective, I would argue he might be the most improved, but one might argue. So,
okay. Ian, you're up next. Most improved investigator.
This is a tough one to say the most improved. Like, part of me wants to say something like Marie because of all the Doom play support. And she's definitely got a big boost from that. But I think I'm also going to take it back to the core set and say my boy Skids. I think with the cards that have come out, Skids is in a much better place. Specifically, we talked about Thieves' Kit, like being able to investigate with his agility. We have things like Dirty Fighting, that after you evade an enemy, you can exhaust and take a fight action. So it's kind of allowing Skids to leverage these different kind of abilities he has to both evade and fight. I think there's just a lot more room there. You have something like Triggerman to get some more fight actions in there. stylish coat to get more resources, like that he can pay for his ability to get more actions, like more than ever. It's easier to get just a ton of resources out. So I think when you combine like the resource support with being able to take these different actions with the big thing of more options to investigate using agility, like Skids is in a lot better place than you used to be.
Okay. Sean?
Well, I have two answers, and my first one might surprise you. So I don't know if this is kind of in the spirit of what we're actually asking. However, I think the investigator that had the biggest glow up in 2022 was none other than one Lola Hayes, because that taboo. I mean, I think it. Look, I'll be honest. Just the way she's constructed in general is not my cup of tea. I'm not going to hate on her, but I think the taboo that she got makes a pretty big difference for the way she plays, and the flexibility you have. Most importantly, Crisis of Identity getting toned down a bit. Oh my God, like that's a pretty big thing. So Lola's my answer in the taboo sense, but if we're going to talk about just like via cards that got released, I think it was Ursula. Like all of the Jack cards that came out in Edge, like Ursula was always great, but like with Janae and hiking boots and like all of the mobility stuff, like Ursula just got like boosted into the stratosphere with tools, particularly out of the Edge cards.
And ancient, what's it called? Level 2 ancient. The card I always champion. Nick used the shit on me all the time.
Oh,
Earth Agents.
Unearth the Ancients.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Agree. Agree.
I will take that card to the grave.
Great card for Ursula.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is it's time for Dubs 2.0.
Sean, I'm surprised you didn't just say Lola straight up, just because of the what do you call them? The synergy cards. Like, as soon as you said Lola, between the taboo and those cards, man, she is a different investigator.
That's a fair point. Really That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I glossed over that because I tried building a Lola synergy deck, and like 90% of the Lola decks I start building, I panicked and closed it and never finished it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure someone who's got a better handle on Lola made a really good synergy deck, particularly with like the permanents, because being able to start with some class cards out like really gives those a boost.
Okay. Yeah, so I asked you guys for favorite or the most improved. Are there any other notable ones? Like it's tough to just pick one. I think you all did a great job, but is there anybody else worth noting that got like a notable glow up, even if you wouldn't say they were the most improved?
Are we counting parallels as a glow up, or is like a parallel?
That's kind of like a separate investigator, right? Because you're like straight up changing their ability. Like I debated that too, because if so, Agnes.
Well, let's pretend they count. Tell us what you think.
I mean, Agnes. Like, she was always good, but the parallel Agnes's ability to spend health to reduce the cost and cycle event spells is insane. And then on top of that, upgraded Hollowed Mirror that I believe came out in Edge is it just pushes her into the stratosphere. She is easily my second favorite Mystic, and just got a lot of support from the Mystic cards that came out.
Parallel Wendy for
Scott?
me. Parallel Wendy. Yeah.
I mean, easy answer there for you.
I've talked about her for 3 episodes now. Like, it's bonkers good. So, and super fun. But yeah, Agnes got a big glow up too with the parallel, for sure.
Ian, anybody else you want to shout out to?
I think the only one that jumps to mind is Calvin, actually. Like, Calvin was I think he was in a pretty decent place already, but I feel like we keep getting more and more soaks. We have what is the multi-class card called? It's a big one the talisman. What is this thing called?
Oh, talisman of protection.
Yeah. So cards like that, it's just I feel like Calvin, like an optimized Calvin build feels like nigh unkillable at this point. Like that you can just keep him like so well protected that you can boost Calvin up pretty high, and it's very hard for the counter deck to knock him out at this point.
Nice. Sean, did you have another one you were starting to say?
Oh, Hollowed Mirror was in Return to TCU, but did that come out in... That wasn't 2022, was it?
It's like...
Or was that 2021?
I think it might have been 2021.
Either way, it feels a little weird to mention it, but I think Norman got a really good burst of support. I've always championed Norman. I think he's really good, but to get the box that he's in and get a slew of cards that obviously were kind of designed with him in mind. The Atlas, as I mentioned, the oh my god, now I've already forgotten it. The Prophecy card.
Foresight.
Thank you, Scott. Well, we reversed roles on that
Tika.
one.
That was Tika.
Yes, thank you, Tika. I thought that was really good. What's the? Is it win? What's the one that maybe it's a level 0 from Edge?
Are you thinking of the one where
you
commit the top card of the deck?
Yes,
It's a level 1 Seeker event.
Written in the Stars.
There we go.
Is the one I want. I feel like Norman was always good just based on his ability because he had access to good cards. He had good stats for what he was doing. But now to get a bunch of cards where it was actually playing with his ability directly, I thought that it kind of pushes him a little bit farther. Again, having not played him since before Edge, I'm really due.
Add him to your list.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Important question here. With all the changes to the investigators, who's your off the hip favorite for March to Madness?
Hasn't changed.
No, I mean like who you think's gonna win?
Yeah.
Who you think's gonna win?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do a full preview. We'll do a full preview when we actually get to it. But since we're talking about it now,
Ooh, God, there's just so many like big decks that have come out. I'm trying to think like what decks rode Arkham DB's front page for a really long time.
Could it be Daniela?
I don't hear enough chatter about Daniela to think that she's going to win it. I think she's great, but
yeah. Ooh, I don't know. That one's
we don't need to fully answer it. That was more the reaction I was expecting because I was in hearing you guys think about it. It's interesting now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not going to be Carson, I'll tell you that much. As much as I think he deserves the top spot, but I think he is much too maligned in some people's eyes.
I don't know if we end up with you campaigning for him as much as you campaign for Ursula.
Yeah. I do think Ursula stands a good shot at like retaining the title. God, it's so tough because like this isn't like a competitive.
I think Stella's our reigning champion.
Yeah. I could see...
was it Stella? Yeah.
I think Stella could go for a twofer.
I don't know. I haven't heard her talked about as much lately, but it's possible. It's always. I could see like.
I think the thing is, I think Kamani.
Yeah, I think I think there's a shot there. I could see someone like Charlie Kane just riding his popularity to like a surprise win.
That would be a very Charlie thing to do. The thing that I always have to remind myself with these kind of like popularity contests basically is that we've got a bunch of new players into the game. The core set investigators and the starter deck investigators always do better than I think they're going to, because those are the ones that people tend to know most universally. So if I had to throw my money anywhere, God, Stella's still a good front runner. Maybe Daisy
Cho?
might hop back in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Nacho. Yeah, I could see Nacho.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting experiment just to get an early read on it, and we'll do more. But yeah, start thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. So from investigators, we're going to turn our attention to mechanics. There is kind of a twofold about what is your favorite new mechanic that is in the game now, and then are there any mechanics that still exist but you think maybe need some love and support? And then if you happen to have any, are there any mechanics that were added that you're like, yeah, thumbs down on that?
Okay, 2 quick answers on mechanics I loved that shouldn't require much explanation or discussion. 1, playing poker in Fortune and Folly, if we're counting Fortune and Folly as being released. And 2, customizable, because it's great.
Yeah.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
I will allow it because 1, Ian added poker to my game. Great, yay, win. And 2, I agree. Scott and Ian, what do you think?
I'm loving concealed cards, like the decoys and the in shadows thing. I think that brought a new flavor to Arkham that I love, as well as the map, like just an open-ended choose your own adventure campaign. Unbelievable.
Ian, before you go, I'm actually going to piggyback on Scott's with the map. I love the way the standalone slot in, and I also love the shift to, if you're playing Scarlet Keys, you spend time as opposed to experience for the side stories.
Yeah.
I just think that's brilliant.
I'll throw a special mention out there. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I was. I've been holding on to this joke for so long, but my favorite mechanic is Danielle Arias, of course.
I'm glad someone said it because I almost said it in my intro, and I'm like, they get enough of that from me anyway.
But
I'm just disappointed in myself for not thinking of it too.
I really want to pick something new, but my favorite mechanics are also one in terms of like encounter side stuff. The map, like just being able to chart your own course is something that I wanted to happen in Arkham Horror, and we finally got to do it. And Eldritch Horror was like my favorite board game for a long time, and it gives me strong Eldritch Horror vibes of like figuring out on the world map where you're gonna go. So I love it. And then in terms of player cards, yeah, customizable. It's just, I love it. It's not always like the most optimal play to pour all your XP into it, but I'm still tempted just because it's such a cool twist on player card and progression.
Nice.
I'm going to throw a special mention out there to the partner mechanic from Edge, because we've had many campaigns with important NPCs and kind of companions, but Edge took it to a new level where they were very, very well fleshed out straight from the beginning. You cared about them. Some of them are at risk and might randomly die. You got to pick and start with one in play, so you can really kind of plan and tech for the scenario you're up against. I found that to be the kind of most satisfying implementation of like an NPC mechanic in the game so far.
So we've talked a lot about the stuff we liked. Is there anything that maybe didn't get fully fleshed out that still needs, is an old mechanic that could still use some love to fit the new vibe of things, or anything you didn't like? There doesn't have to be either, but figured we'd give it a fair shake.
I feel like maybe being the tanky investigator still might need a bit more love. Like the absorb everything from every location, or absorb everything from every investigator at your location. Maybe some support where you can absorb from other locations. Maybe, like, I don't know. I want a bit more of that. Like the more of the get behind me style of play.
Okay.
I think Danielle was pretty good.
There's a few challenges to that play style now. I agree. It could use a little bit more love.
I want it to be more potent.
Hmm.
All right. Hearing no others, let's move on. So we're back to just general new cards. What is your favorite new card that no one else is talking about?
Dr. William T. Mailson, level 2. I think
Dr. William T. Mellison II.
Yeah, I think for solo players especially, having access to him, if you have access to him, the amount of control that he can give you around not getting absolutely slaughtered by just a single bad encounter draw, especially in solo, like it's so much better than level 0. Like, he's worth the upgrade.
I totally agree. Like, I feel like original Malison was underrated for a long time, and the upgraded version repeats that. But I don't know if this card is not talked about by anyone. I'm sure someone has mentioned it, and maybe people rave about it. But when I haven't, like, myself heard us talk about a lot, I can say that much at least, is String of Curses. This is the Mystic event where it's a parlay. You choose a non-elite enemy at your location, and either you automatically evade the enemy and place 1 doom on it. It can't take damage for the remainder of the round, but then you also discover 1 clue at your location. So that option, you get an evade, you get a clue at the cost of a doom. The second option, if that enemy has 1 or more doom on it, defeat it. You just straight up defeat it. So just thinking about that second option, anytime you have scenarios with annoying cultists who happen to just get doom on themselves right away, or our old friend from TFA, the Brotherhood
cultists.
Boom,
Literally,
they're just
all
gone.
of us thought about the same one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just testless. Like, for how good that is, how annoying cultist enemies, how much they can wreck scenarios. The fact that you just have a button to be like, bye. String of Curses should probably be talked about more.
I have that in my Amina deck, and very, very light mechanical spoiler for one of the scenarios in one of the cultist scenarios in the Scarlet Keys. But I drew that in my opening hand, and I saw the sets that this scenario had, and had all the classic cultist stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And then it turns out that the cultists in that particular scenario don't actually ever get doom on them. And I was like, oh, come on, game. I had it. No. But yes, I agree. That's a fantastic card, especially at level 0 too.
And 1 cost, like, oh
yeah. And you get resources from
and
that
parlay.
second option I didn't even mention. For however much doom on them, you get a resource. Yep.
Yeah, that is a TFA tech card from now until the day I stop playing Arkham Horror. Yeah, fucking Brotherhood cultists. I don't know if I mentioned it when we were talking about like my current TFA campaign that I'm playing. The first time a Brotherhood cultist hopped out onto the board, I told my friend Kip, I'm like, all right, these guys are fuckers. Pay attention. Don't fail a test. Things are going to be fine if we don't. Sure enough, and he's playing Mark, right? Like, if anyone should be able to just annihilate a cultist, it's Mark. First literal fight test against a Brotherhood cultist, Tentacle. And then the second one was a fail, and suddenly we're like, oh god, now Agenda's gonna pop. Like, those guys just get out of hand so fast. So yeah, anyway. String of Curses would have been wonderful in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people underrate it. I don't hear people talking about it very often. I've been championing it since it first came out, but I think Blur out of Edge is a ridiculously good card. All of the multi-class cards give you kind of a cool bonus for what they're doing. Extra clue for divination, extra damage for Brand of Cthulhu. The evade ones are always interesting because how many flavors of extra evade can you get? Like, doesn't ready until the end of the turn gets a little, it's good, but it gets a little like tired. You can't put that on every boosted evade card, but an extra action after an evade, oh, that's juicy. That's so juicy. And I think that card is just fantastic.
And every time you play it, you go, well, woohoo.
Well, now I will.
I will be disappointed if you don't. Excellent. Moving on. So these are multi-parts again, and we'll just have you guys chime in. So the ask is, as the game stands today, who would you say is either the most powerful or your favorite? So either one. Solo investigator and multiplayer investigator.
All right, well, Scott, you have the same answer for both, so let's get that done with.
Well, no, I think my favorite solo is Ursula for sure. My favorite multiplayer is Carson now, followed by Rex, followed by Carson. Or most powerful, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I meant like your favorite and the best, I assumed.
For solo? Oh, yes, it's Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, presumably.
Okay. I won't talk about it more because I'm sure everyone is bored to death about me talking about Ursula. So, Ian, what are you feeling?
For solo, my favorite is still Finn. He's holding on still, clutching onto the edge of the cliff with his fingernails, holding onto that spot. There's so many good choices in Rogue. I'm gonna pick a Rogue because it's my favorite class, but I feel like Rogue also has some powerhouse solo investigators now. You have people like Trish. Monterey Jack is just like ridiculously good. Kaimani is also ridiculously good now. I don't even know how you pick what's just like the objectively most powerful. Maybe I might give it to Monterey Jack, like the class access and everything and the ability. It's just super strong, but I don't think you can go wrong with any of the ones that I named.
Yeah.
Sean, how about you?
Well, as someone who plays almost entirely multiplayer, I don't have strong opinions on solo. I think that Diana is probably my favorite mystic to play solo. She lets me play at a pace. She lets me control the encounter deck in the early game, which is usually where solo gets away from me. And she's very flexible. So Diana's my pick for solo. Oh my god, multiplayer though. That's just so many things. So Carson's a good pick. I think that he's just built for multiplayer, so maybe that's a cop-out answer. So if I had to pick someone other than Carson,
I'm surprised you haven't said who I thought you would have said by now.
We'll go ahead and guess it.
Gloria.
I mean, yeah. That's at the end of the day. Here's the thing: is like that's definitely most powerful. Now that I've done Gloria through like a full Iron Man, she takes a little bit of magic out of the game. Like she absolutely wrecks the game, but like once you remove the unknown from the encounter deck, there's a little bit of magic and terribleness that I actually find myself missing. So like, yeah, she's definitely good, but yeah, that's fair. Carson and Gloria.
Or you can pick someone else because I'll just pick Gloria because I love that she takes the magic out of the
Yeah.
game.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how you see the magic in the game. Because Justin, I think you and I are the same, where it's like the magic is me taking the magic out.
Well, the magic is the breaking of the system, and that's
Right.
so thematic for what she does.
Yes.
So again, it's both the theme and the power there for me. Of just so good.
That's fair. I like the flash. I like flashy stuff, and like I feel like in multiplayer, I tend to either run enemy management or flex hard. And my favorite thing in multiplayer is when you can flex hard and like there are like 3 things that need to get done and like one investigator manages to do it all in a turn. So my favorite way to do that is my buddy Silas, because you get the right combination of cards like nimble and like I've really been digging like a dark horse deck, so he can like grab 2 clues off a location, nimble evade an enemy, nimble into another location, and then like and suddenly in Silas, when you draw an elder sign, it becomes a party. There's very few things in Arkham Horror, the card game, I enjoy more than drawing a clutch elder sign in Silas. It is such a goddamn good time. So yeah, that's probably my non-Gloria pick.
I prefer
Silas.
Yeah, like
Silas
Mateo
played
has
by Chris Pontius, Party Boy.
Mateo has the automatic pass, but Silas has the absolute like confetti cannon.
Yep.
Like this is gonna pass, and I'm also going to do this busted stuff. Like hold on to your hat, and also that confetti stays around forever because that card also goes back to your hand and is going to be played again. Right? Like it's best elder sign for funsies.
So good.
Nice. So the question did ask most powerful or favorite. Are there any other specific solo or multiplayer investigators that you'd call out? Like, again, if you didn't have to just pick one, if you were like, okay, here's the one, if you forced me to pick one, great, but shout out to this other investigator for solo or multiplayer.
Well, there's one in particular for multiplayer that I've wanted to play and haven't had the chance yet in terms of like a big 3 or 4 player game, and that's Bob. Like, I think that play style of like playing other people's items is super interesting. I've played them in 2 player, but I think in 4 player and playing some of the other cards that we got that kind of support like this whole like
Quartermaster build.
Yeah, Quartermaster build. That's a good way to put it. And it's funny because I think the last 2 Ironmans that we talked about together, which was Dream Eaters and then Return to Dunwich, I kept suggesting Bob, and then you guys kept being like, "No, I don't have that many items in my deck. No, I'm good. I don't." Like, damn it, I'm never gonna get to play Bob.
Though.
Someone play fucking allies. I mean items. I just need items to be around. But one day Bob will happen. But yeah, I think this is not so much the power part, but the favorite part, that I think it would be a super fun play style and multiplayer.
Seems good.
I think for me, for solo investigators, if I have to add to the list, 3-way tie for second, maybe a 4-way tie now, actually, and 3 of them are survivors because why not? Wendy, Stella, and Trish, I think, are all pretty top tier solo investigators. Silas now has so many options to do so many things that I have found a lot of success with Silas solo. Success that I never thought would happen because of that 2 intellect. But
it was also very beautiful, organic alliteration that I
It was. I was smiling as I heard it roll off his tongue.
yeah.
Okay. Last question, and then we can just open up, see if anybody else has any other year-end recap things they want to say. So we had an FAQ update in this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about it now? There's been more time. Anything that stands out as you agree with more than you initially did? Anything you disagree with more? Where are you at with it? Let's go with Scott first.
Here, I'm just gonna pass this to you, Sean, like a volley in volleyball, so you can spike it over the net. I now much more disagree with the Renfield chaining on the taboo list. I think he's perfectly fine at level 0. And I think it's a disservice to Mystic as a class to have him chained.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I'm trying to be less hyperbolic about it because I don't want to seem like I'm just being ridiculous and salty. I like a lot of what they did with the most recent taboo. I don't want to get to a place with Arkham Horror, the card game, that it feels like it's George Lucas fucking around with the original trilogy, you know? And I don't think we're there yet. I'm not saying we are there yet, but I did feel it was a little heavy-handed, even beyond Renfield. I don't ever really feel, and this is just me, because this is my player type. If there's a really powerful card out there and it obsoletes or just completely what's the word I'm looking for? Trivializes something in the game. I have it in me to just be like, okay, cool, played it, done now. It's not interesting anymore. Some people don't, and like some people really, really clamor for those cards to get checked, and like I feel like those people got a little bit louder this time, or it felt like those types of players were being responded to. I felt like the more recent FAQ was a little heavy-handed, was maybe a little reactionary. But it also had some really cool stuff in it. Like the buffs. I really like the buffs because I love it when an old card gets new life. I'd like to see more of that type of taboo. I also like that. Was this the one where Machete came off, or was that the one before?
Machete came off this one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so like that's a perfect thing where like Machete died to me the second it got chained. And maybe that's the point, maybe it's not, and I just took it too far, but like the second I had to pay XP for Machete, it was just dead. And now we've had a long time with it not being like a staple for those of us who generally follow taboo. And it came off, and the game's fine. No one's complaining about Machete anymore because like we were forced to like figure it out without it. So I guess I don't want the FAQ and the taboo list in particular to get to a place where it really feels like constant game balance. If something's broken, if something's not working in the intended way, sure, do that. But I don't know. I want to see... I don't give a shit about adjusting for power. Like, if something's too powerful and trivializes the game, I just won't play it. So it bothers me when I see something like... It's not the only example, but Renfield was definitely the one that hit me the hardest, where it feels like, okay, like... It's Doom play. I get that probably some munchkin figured out a way to ready Renfield like 6 times in a turn and just get a gob of resources. Probably that was possible. I don't really feel like he needed to be adjusted for that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it now.
I think, though, I feel like I'm looking at the tabooed card list, and I'm honestly like, I agree with pretty much every card. Except for Renfield.
Yeah, maybe I need to really look at it again before I go spouting off.
Like, super quick, I'm going to go over, like, just gobs, okay? We got a couple allies that got more experience because they were quite powerful. They got balanced, I think. Got a couple cards that were taken off or lesser experience because they weren't as strong. We got, like, the hammer was a perfect toning down, I think, because the hammer was, right? Like, it was the best guardian weapon. There was no reason not to take it, and was probably one of the best options for.
There were plenty
Mystic
of reasons
well.
not to take it, but I understand your argument.
Right, but if you're playing that power game, right, and they slightly adjusted it, Mandy was bonkers good. Now Mandy is appropriate, and she's more thematic in what she should be, right? Lola, I love the change. I don't know. I think the FAQ, the taboo was fantastic. I disagree with the Renfield change. Because I think you're right. I think there was probably one or two probably problematic examples, but I don't think an entire class should suffer losing one of the only allies that can give them a stat boost.
The stat they want.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what's
0.
interesting is that's the thing is like chaining a level 0 card is a huge hit compared to adding a couple of extra XP to Janae. Like,
yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree that maybe Janae was undercosted to begin with. I don't need her to cost more. But taking Renfield out of a level 0 deck is a huge hit to a level 0 deck that wants him versus I got to get 2 more XP before I can upgrade into Janae. That's not as big a slash down.
Mm-hmm. And 3 experience on Renfield. Like,
it's a lot.
If he was maybe 1 experience, then at least you could take In the Thick of It, and then I'd be like, okay, I can see that, right? Like, Renfield's pretty good, 1 XP, and now you can take him at the start if you do In the Thick of It. But I'm also okay with him at 0. I don't think he's that busted, because I don't think Amina is that busted. I think she's very good. I think she's solid. And I think that might have been the fear with all the Doom play. But
I mean, if you're going to spend your whole deck archetype and all your experience on making Doom play better, like, why? Like, that's fine. Like, then Renfield gets better. Yeah, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah. There are so many other cards.
Before we get too far down the Renfield spiral.
The Renfield absolute ass whooping. Yeah.
Yeah, the Renfield spiral is a real scientific concept that has recently come into existence.
The Renfield event horizon.
It is localized around Sean. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Ian, I want to toss it to you about the taboo and the FAQ. Any thoughts?
I think I'm pretty much in the same boat as Scott, that overall I agree with most of the changes. Probably with the exception of Renfield, but I will avoid the Renfield spiral. But I think my main takeaway that I came from this most recent FAQ and from 2022 is just more and more over time I've realized that I am not necessarily a big fan of the chaining approach, adding XP. I feel like every time XP is added to a card, it just falls out of my mind space, and I don't use that card anymore. And I don't want cards to disappear from my card pool. I want to use my cards. So, in general, I favor the mutation much more. Like the Mr. Rook change is a great example where they changed it from a chain to now a mutation, where just change it to an action ability instead of free trigger. Stuff like that is the approach. And I understand why they do the chain, because every time you add a mutation, it's more stuff that players have to remember is chained. It's more altered text. So the chaining is actually, an easier fix. But I don't know. I just don't like the way, for at least me personally, it just takes cards out of the card pool. So that's kind of my big takeaway. My other takeaway on that note is I think it's time for 2023, I think, is the year for Double or Nothing to be brought back. I think there's a way to mutate it and still have it exist. I don't want it forbidden anymore. I like the meme of it being forbidden, but I want it back.
Yeah, just in theory, I don't like that there is a card that it's not just the money, right? But it's the whole, I've paid for this card and now been told it shouldn't have been in the game. Mm-hmm. Or like, yeah. I understand it, but he also, again, taboo is optional, so there is that. But
yeah, I don't know though. And Justin, I'm not gonna jump on you for that, but I think that's a notion that Sean has mentioned, and I would agree with him that I don't think it's a fair way to approach taboo. It's like, well, it's just optional. It's like, yeah, but I'm looking towards taboo to be, at least for me, that balancing rod that the designers can use to tweak the game. But I don't think that balancing rod should be used for a niche deck. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like telling someone to ignore taboo, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, but like saying it's optional is kind of dismissing concerns with the taboo list by dismissing the taboo list.
It is. I will own that it's a cop-out in the broader sense. I think you and I are actually coming at it from the same standpoint, though, where The reason I bring up it being optional is there are still some people who might get to play Arkham 6 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so just tabulous is too much to know that, hey, this card is forbidden. And that's more what I'm speaking to.
Yes.
As opposed to it's optional as a rationale for a decision that, like, whether we think is bad or wouldn't agree with. So, yep, same page.
Okay, yeah. Because I would agree. Like, if you're playing Arkham 6 times a year, taboo probably doesn't matter for you. That's where the taboo is optional thing comes in. But for someone who is a taboo player, telling them that taboo is optional is like, yeah. Oh, okay. One good thing I did like about this FAQ, the introduction of Limbo as a game area. So when a treachery is off the top of the deck, like, where is it? Is it on the top of the deck? Like, as resolving, it's in Limbo. Where are your skill cards when they're committed? In Limbo, right? Like, it just, there were so many weird rules questions, and just adding that mystical place where cards are as they're being played, like where an event is as it's being played. It's in Limbo. It's just, it's something we didn't have defined, but everyone was like, it's just there. It's not in your hand. It's not in your discard pile, but nothing says it's not in those places. So,
just in that liminal space.
That liminal space. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now the catch-all. Anything else from Year in Review you boys want to talk about? Anything good, bad, otherwise exciting? Any musings on life? What do you got?
Oh, boy.
I'm curious. Just kind of another thing along the lines of what we've already been talking about. What's a card that, like, you keep looking at it and you keep going, like, I'm gonna build that deck, but you still have yet to?
Henry won.
Mine is let's see here. I just had it. It's nope, there it is. It's a mystic card. It is True Magic, Reworking Reality. So I keep looking. Okay, so to remind everyone, it's a tome. Uses a charge, replenishes a charge at the start of each round. You can resolve spell abilities on assets in your hand by revealing them from your hand. Treat True Magic as if it were the revealed asset to pay its cost, spend charges, performance effect, etc. So it's basically like a wild spell, and you cycle in and out. And I assume you can just, like, put extra charges on it and that sort of thing. Always have wanted to build the deck, have yet to get around to it. I think it's maybe a little overcosted in XP for what it does, but it seems like a really cool card.
I will agree with that because I actually used it in a campaign I played with my brother, I think. It was 1 or 2 campaigns ago, I believe. And I didn't get it in until much later because I'm like, this seems spendy. Mm-hmm. And then you get to that point where you're like, this might be fun and I have XP to burn. Why not? So that's the only time I've gotten to use it. So I agree with the potentially overcosted.
Yeah.
But I could also see it being abused, and I just don't know how.
And I'm just not sure who to put it in. Like, I keep looking at it, like, where do you go? And someday I'll figure it out, but that's the deck I've yet to build.
I think for me, I haven't yet played with research notes because I saw it played at Arkham Knights, and it was just it was very potent. And I watched it played, and I was like, okay, I'm satisfied now. But now I kind of want to play it for myself because I've watched others play it, and I just haven't done it myself. And I want to take my own spin on it.
I think that was in the deck I played where we had the super fun Sean and Nick throwing themselves at the enemies so I could get out.
Yeah. The casino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that ended up firing so well. I'm like, I got this. And we thought I had it and then didn't have it.
Mm-hmm. I think the one for me is Professor William Webb. I keep looking at included in a deck or two, but hasn't quite gone off like I wanted it to. So I think that's just like a deck type that I want to play more with. Recycling items, essentially.
I keep wondering what I can do with him that I couldn't do better with level 2 scavenging. That's what always prevents me from firing off on that one. Like, he gives you access to, like, discover a clue at another location, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of his thing.
Yeah,
that's not
so
bad.
Yeah.
I've also wanted to quote unquote break Ravenquill. I feel like it is just asking to just pick the right asset and just go absolute ham with it in a way that was not intended, but I haven't found the right asset yet. Or the right combination of things on the back of Ravenquill. But if anyone has done that already, let me know. So I can stop and I can just play your deck.
Send me the list.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah. It's been a fun year. And I feel like there have been more people involved in Arkham chatting and just decks being published and activity on various social medias and whatnot. And I'm excited to see all these people. Like, I've seen tons of people recently, like on the Facebook group and in our Discord, being like, hey, I just got into this game. I just bought the core set and the revised Dunwich and Carcosa and all this stuff. Like, I'm so glad I'm getting into this. And they have these like one-stop shop items that they can buy instead of chasing down packs. And yeah, I see the game still growing, which is insane to think. We're 6 years into it now, and it's continuing to grow. It's not like leveling off. It's still ascending. So
yep. To that note, Scott, with the growth, and I've also seen as well with all the new players in various spaces. If anyone's listening to this and knows new players who maybe haven't come to the Discord or heard the podcast, please let them know about it. And I'm not asking just purely for like growing. That's not the point. We really value the community around Arkham. And so even if we aren't their cup of tea, hopefully we can help connect them, or someone in the community can connect them with the resource they want. So just help the new players find the best resources. If we can happen to be that, that's great. And if not, we're happy to help point them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. We might be due for a refresh on the new player episode. That might be a thing we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would actually, brainstorming out loud here, that might dovetail very nicely with the house rules.
It might. Okay. Well.
So.
Let's see if we can get our shit together next month. That's a big topic. There's a lot of meat there.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of Scarlet Keys investigators, so
it's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, wonderful.
That's the end of the list. So I'll kick it back to you, Sean.
Yeah. Well, thanks again to Jam Jams. Appreciate the input. We always love good topic ideas, and that was a good one. So boys, let's round it out with a little bit of tentacle time. And by that, I mean, let's talk about Marvel Snap.
Yeah.
Aw, yeah.
All right. What's everyone's level at? Just as an update.
All right, everyone check in.
What's okay? So the season just ended. What did everyone make it to rank wise? Like, I made it into the very lowest like echelon of gold before the season ended.
What number is that?
Yeah.
I was mid 50s.
So I want to say low 50s. Yeah. Okay. No, low 40s is gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was mid 50s.
I think I was like 43 is where I ended.
Yeah, I think I was like where I maxed out.
I think I hit 60 both of the previous seasons.
Nice job, Austin.
Very well
done. I hit 60
and then I'm
2 seasons ago, I think.
Nice.
And my collection level is 1,657.
Okay. I'm 1,031.
I'm 1,490.
1,102.
All right.
So, Snap, the best pooping game that has ever existed.
Mm-hmm. This is true,
dude. Like,
true.
And even beyond the pooping joke, like the fact that I can just like pick it up, play it for 10-15 minutes, get my missions done until they refresh, put it down, maybe pick it up later that evening. Like, it doesn't ask a lot of you. The games are quick and low investment. You can run a variety of different decks once you get a decent breadth of collection. Like, there have been a couple moments where I like will run up against like 3 move decks in a row that like just draw the nuts and get the right cards in the right order, and then just like I there's nothing I can do about it, and I think about quitting. But then I don't, and I keep playing, and it's great.
My version of that is I will run up 3 times in a row against decks where I don't have those cards.
That too.
And they're the cards that counter what I've got.
And it's like, oh, your fancy fucking cards. All right, good for you.
And again, it's maybe because I'm a little spoiled from playing Arkham in the contained card pool, but then that it pulls the curtain back on the collectible nature of it. I'm like, I know in theory it's a set card pool, but in order to actually get all those cards, no.
Yeah.
I do also like that they have that you get rewarded with the gold currency as well, so you can in theory get some of the optional cosmetics, because I'm not going to put money into that. I don't care enough about it. I don't fault anyone who does, but I was able to have enough of those that I could get like that Apocalypse bundle that was there that I was not going to spend the money on, but I had saved up enough gold. Then I can feel more engaged with that optional element.
Yeah, I've been lucky in the cards I've gotten, and also pinning the right cards in the store that I have like one of the top meta decks of like Death Wave. So I have Death and then Wave, which is where the name got its name from.
Aptly named.
Yeah, and but also I'm enjoying some like really janky stuff too. And I think it's just super fun how the game allows that. Like I have a deck where I have a 1 cost, a 2 cost, a couple 4 costs, and the rest are 5 or 6s, but those 4 costs are Jubilee, who pulls cards from your deck, and then Absorbing Man, who copies what Jubilee does. And then I have like Odin to make Jubilee do it again. Right? And I'm just like smacking down these giant cards, and it's hilariously fun.
I enjoy to me it's a little bit of jank, but anything that really fires off in a weird way with Arnim Zola, where it's like, wow, hey, I built up on this one lane. It sure seems like I'm going to win that.
Yeah.
So they're leaving it alone. Oh, JK, I'm going to go after the other 2 lanes.
Being able to feint is fun. I've been playing around a lot with a Beast Bounce deck, where you kind of spam out like a series of like 1 and 2 cost cards, like Iceman and Scorpion, sometimes Electra, and then like turn 3 or 4, you bounce them all back to your hand, and then spam them out again the next turn, like for either free or 1 cost. That one's been fun. It's not top tier, but it's really fun. And then most of the time I like abandon that location after they've committed to it, and it's just beasts. And I spam them all out in other locations. The thing that I have a hard time with is sometimes as the locations get revealed, like sometimes RNG just really gives it to you. Particularly the ones where you can't play cards, or cards get destroyed when you play them there, or just like you just can't do a thing there, and it's like, well, I made a mistake not playing my first card of the game in the middle location, and now I just can't do anything.
Yeah, I think the one
I pull the ripcord so fast
and retreat.
I mean, because then it's a 1 cost, as opposed to, even though they're short rounds, am I going to have a bad time with it?
Yeah, right.
And not just, and I will give the ones where I can't play something there. I might give that a little bit, but there's other ones. Like if I see Ego as a location, nope, I'm done. Nope, not going to bother. I'll take the loss on that.
I let those ones play out until someone snaps, or I'm like, oh, I'm losing, then I'll retreat. But like, I'll watch it for the first 5 turns or something.
Ain't nobody got time for that, Scott.
My least favorite things is where it's like swap decks with your opponent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shuffle
shuffle
like, 5 rocks
that.
into your deck.
Yeah.
Like switch hands on turn 6. It's
I
like,
don't want to play with someone else's deck. No.
Yeah. The hands and deck thing is interesting. I actually kind of like sometimes I like the one where it's like draw 3 cards, destroy your deck, because then that becomes an interesting economy game. Rocks, I fucking hate. I fucking hate rocks so goddamn much. And when the quarry shows up, I'm like, out. That's the one where I pull the ripcord automatically.
Is it the one where if you play a card there, you put a rock in your deck? Is that one?
That one is okay because you
rocks?
can like play around that a little bit. I hate the one where it just shuffles 5 rocks
It just
into
does that
each player's deck.
Yeah.
Because random my fucking ass, it puts 5 rocks on top of my deck.
Yes.
And I will not be convinced otherwise.
Also,
unless you are. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say also Jubilee only grabs rocks when there's rocks. Even if there's one rock in your deck from Korg or whatever his name is, that's who Jubilee grabs.
Yep. 100%.
I have a Mr. Negative deck, and he, when you play him, he switches the cards in your deck, not in your hand, not in play. The cards in your deck, the power and energy cost. And when rocks get shuffled into that deck, and I draw a rock after I finally drop Mr. Negative, it's like, oh, whoop-de fucking do. Now it's a 0 cost, 1 power card. Thanks, deck. God, I hate rocks.
What decks are you guys playing right now? The 2 I mainly play are Silver Surfer deck, so mostly 3 cost, but then I do have Sarah in there for a big turn 6. And then I have an on reveal one with Wong, Black Panther, White Tiger, Odin, and Arnim Zola. So I have like 3 different ways the end game can go.
I have my Jubilee deck that I love, and the Deathwave one, mostly. Oh, I have a Destroyer deck too.
Ooh, Destroyer's fun. Tell me more about Deathwave, Scott.
It's a bunch of destruction stuff. So you get Death, who's a 12 power 9 cost, but costs -1 for each card that's been destroyed or whatever. And then I have Moon Girl in there who can copy my hand when Death is in my hand. Then you have Wave who makes everything cost 4, which then Death is like if there's 4 cards destroyed costs 0. And then you also have America Chavez in there. So if you've doubled America and play Wave, on the last turn you can play 2 12s and a 9 power. And just where do you want to win? Just pick your place.
I need death. I need death badly.
See, I hear that and I hear I'm gonna play Juggernaut.
Well, my Jubilee deck has Juggernaut in it, so she can pull out like, oh, turn 4 Juggernaut. Or no, sorry, Infinaut, not Juggernaut. Oh, Juggernaut, yeah, him. Yeah.
Yep.
But okay, you're pushing my 12 somewhere else? Like,
yeah, hopefully to where another 12 is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ian, what are you playing?
I'm still playing this. It's still kind of my primary deck, what I talked about in two episodes ago, which is my Big Heroes Electro deck, which just uses Electro to get more energy and pump out a bunch of big guys. So that hasn't changed much, I think. And then similar to you, Justin, the other one that I play a lot, just because it's like ridiculous and fun when it hits, is the Wong deck. So yeah, it's pretty similar, it sounds like, to yours and what a lot of other people are running. The White Tiger and who else is it? Black Panther, obviously. I got Thor recently, so that was a ridiculous game I had where like Thor's hammer just buffed him so much, plus Black Panther in a different location. So yeah, it was When it hits, it's great. When someone drops Cosmo at Wong's location, it's not so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else get leader?
Oh, yes.
Leader.
Leader's getting nerfed.
He is, yeah.
That leader is like a hard counter to my big heroes deck, so I especially hate leader.
Leader's a hard counter to decks. Like,
yeah, that too. That too.
Yeah.
Anything you can do, I can do 2 and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sean, what are you playing?
I've got that Beast Bounce deck. My old reliable is just Devil Dinosaur deck with Moon Girl and just all the stuff that adds extra cards to your hand. So like Collector and the Mr. Negative deck. I'm finally starting to get good cards for. I finally got Magic. I finally got Psylocke, which are kind of like big enablers for what you're trying to do there. I too have like a 3-cost and no abilities deck, so it's like Patriot and Silver Surfer are kind of the clutch cards. And then I'm trying to think what's the other deck I'm playing right now. Oh yeah, so I've got Surfer, Swap, Beast Bounce, and I just call it Draw as my Devil Dinosaur deck. So they're pretty basic. I feel like a lot of the like clutch cards for some of the decks that I haven't tried yet, I still are way out of my reach. So I'm waiting to pull some of those. Like I want to get that like Sinister Six limiter deck that you were talking about last time, Ian. But all I have is Sandman. That's the only Sinister Six I have. Sandman and Lizard, I guess. But anyway, yeah. Still having fun with it. I very much appreciate the fact that we already have like 2 high-profile alt arts of Storm. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a competent enough player to play Storm well half the time now.
I was going to ask if that has changed because I'm still okay with Storm. I use her more like I would use Scarlet Witch to just change the location. But the Storm Juggernaut combo is how I've been using it in my Surfer deck of flood it and then bounce them off.
Nice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I have Storm and Rhino for location management in my 3-cost deck. If there's a location I don't like, I just like Rhino just blows it up last turn. That's been my solution to those locations where like destroy the card when you play it there, or you can't like Sanctum Sanctorum, I think is the one where you just can't play cards there.
Yeah.
That's Rhino doesn't help you there, but
Luke's Bar, that one can either be awful or amazing.
Yeah.
Like you could, I had it where I think I played Scorpion there, and I think that's in my reveal. Like played him there 3 turns in a row just to mess with the other.
What does that one do? It bounces it back to your hand.
It bounces it back to your hand. So you could do something like if you play a card, like if you play Professor Xer, he'll stay. If you play Brood or Mr. Sinister, they make their clone. The clone stays, but the card you played bounces back. But if you have something with on reveal, you play it, it does its nasty thing, you send it back. But yeah, it's those sorts of locations. Otherwise, how do you play there?
Yeah. I had like Nightcrawler in my deck for the longest, like every deck. I had a Nightcrawler in every deck for the longest time for that reason. But yeah, if you're not doing move shenanigans, it ultimately turned out not to be worth it. All right, boys, talk about Andor.
Probably the best Star Wars media that's come out since Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, goddamn.
Whoa.
I'd agree with that.
Nick said that too, so like that's a thing.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. If you're a Star Wars fan, I think this is like the minorest of spoilers if you talk to anybody about it. It's not really a spoiler. There's no like it does not concentrate on the Skywalker saga or the Skywalker family at all. And I think it is so good. And the show is good because it itself is good. And I mean that in you could take this and put it in like Cold War 1960 USSR, and it would feel right in there. Like you know what I mean? Like you could paint a different theme on it and it would still be a great show. It's just set in Star Wars.
Yeah, I can't say enough good about it. Before Andor came out, like Rogue One was my favorite Star Wars movie since the original trilogy. Like I love Rogue One. And then so when they announced they were doing Andor, I was pretty hype. And that was the show I was actually the most excited for, even more than like Boba Fett or Obi-Wan or that, just because I was really interested to see more of that character. But I kind of put it off watching it for various reasons, and then finally I started watching it, watched the first couple episodes, and then I just binged through the rest. But I was a little bit worried because I had waited. I had heard so much good things about it. It's one of those things where like people are hyping it so much, like how could it possibly live up to everything they've said? But it did. Somehow it managed to live up to all that hype. And surpass it.
Somehow like, Palpatine returned, you know?
Yeah. It's not like it's even just like in my like top 5 or whatever of Star Wars stuff. It's like of sci-fi shows in general. It's like it's so good. To be honest, I don't think Star Wars has seen this level of like dialogue and story to this point. And that's not knocking on Star Wars. It's just like a different type of thing, and just the way it really like the reason I like Rogue One so much is I think people like different like Star Wars is a big enough universe that people like different aspects of it, so some people really enjoy like the Jedi and Sith lore and really delving into that. Some people really love the bounty hunter and like scum aspects. There's just different parts of it that appeal to me. The part that always appealed to me is the rebellion part, the like more grounded rebel stuff, whether it's like doing their starfighters and X-Wing combat or the more like just regular rebel stuff. And so that's why Rogue One really appealed to me. And that's what Andor does, but even goes beyond my expectations. Like it really delves into like what an empire does, like, and what a rebellion has to do, and the kind of things people have to take into account. Like, some aspects of Star Wars, again, I'm not knocking on Star Wars, but it has more of like a comic book mentality and feel of like bad guys versus good guys. And Andor is very clear on who the bad guys are, but it just feels real, like this is what people would have to do in a rebellion against this empire. So that's my piece. That's my rant. I love it. I'm probably going to rewatch it several times because it's that good.
There were the build up to big plot points in it was fantastic. Those big plot points paid off. Like there's I think it's the 8th or 9th episode. The big outcome of that one, Ian, I'm like that whole episode, my heart was racing. It was fantastic. Oh, as well as the 3rd or 4th episode, that big climax to that plot point. Like I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just like, can we just I need to find out what happens. And a show has not given me that type of like anxiety in a good way, excitement since Ozark. So.
Ugh.
Yeah, but this one was better somehow. Yeah,
probably because it's
Star Wars.
yeah,
and not criminals. And there are criminals. And also, I liked how there's a lot of characters who aren't rebellion or empire, and they're kind of floating in between. There's a huge spectrum of them. The representation in the Star Wars universe vastly increased here, which was also really good too. So
yeah, it does a lot of world building in a cool way that like one of my gripes with the sequel trilogy among many is kind of a lack of world building in a lot of places, or being careless about it. And Andor is just like so real that these are places that exist in the Star Wars universe that we haven't seen before. Yeah.
I'm very excited
guys
to
should-
hopefully start it this weekend and be able to share thoughts with you soon.
Yeah.
You guys should watch the show. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I think the only bad part of it is having to like go on and watch other Star Wars shows that will come out now.
That's the only negative.
Yeah, I'm like, what do I do now?
The only negative is that everything I watch is an Andor.
Yeah, yes.
Andor season 2 has a lot to live up to. If they're gonna make one.
True. I hope so.
But yeah. Justin.
Yeah. So if you guys are finally done with Andor, I know how much you love it, and you could go on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have one last thing I'd like to fit into Tentacle Time before I forget and it gets too far away. Have we talked about Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix?
No.
I don't think we have on the podcast, no.
Ooh, you guys, it's good. It's the Guillermo del Toro running through the different standalone episodes. Some of them focus more on the flash than the substance. Like I walked away from a few of them. I'm like, that story could have been tighter. But I mean, the visuals are awesome. There is an episode that has just stuck with me, and I'm like, oh my god, that would what? So if y'all watch it, it's called watch all of them. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one called The Autopsy. It's not my favorite of all of them. But
Gross.
dear God, it's
the
stuck in
most-
my brain.
It's the most affecting.
Yes, I can't say more without spoiling it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Fair enough.
definitely like the one, and it's not like there is an autopsy. That's not the point. That's not the thing I'm going to reference here. But you know how if you're watching like a horror movie or something, and you put yourself in there, and you're like, well, here's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I can't stop running scenarios in my brain of like, but what if, and it's breaking my brain. It's that good.
Interesting.
So, anyway, check out the rest of them. There is Tika mentions that they did Pickman's Model. That one was really, really good.
Ooh, that's a good story.
Yep, that one was really good. But yeah, The Autopsy, just chills.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Fun. All right. Well, I think that does it for 146. We will see you guys next month for 147. Bye.
Bye.
Oh no, not Brown Jenkin.